push to be president. Lots of people rushed to back her as well. She's already secured the delegates that she needs, so she will be the Democratic presumptive nominee. That's what she's going to be. And in 2 weeks, we'll have the convention in Chicago. So a lot has happened in this past week. Kamala has energized the nation, but also a lot of things have been made clear and crystal clear. Tonight, we're going to talk about some things. This will be a close election, but why? Why is this going to be a close election? What do we see as what's actually going on? Do we want to endorse her or not endorse her? We're going to talk about that too. Why do they want to endorse Trump? Why is he the one that is put up on the Democratic Party? How do we see these next 100 days, 99 days now, shaking out? So I want to introduce everybody. My name is Brian K. McNeil. I'm the sales confidence coach, but I'm here with my friends tonight, thought leaders as well, Donald Morton and Dr. Leroy McKenzie. Dr. Leroy McKenzie, please introduce yourself however you like.
No, good evening, everybody. Real quick, Dr. LJ speaks, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. Looking forward to this conversation because it's one that needs to be had consistently now through the election. So I'm just thank you, Brian, for inviting me to be a part of this. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming, Dr. Leroy McKenzie. I really, really appreciate your mind and how you think every time we've talked. And another man that's in this circle tonight is another man that I've come to recognize as one of the true thought leaders that I know. Mr. Donald Morton, please introduce yourself however you like.
Black people, Donald Morton, Chief Visionary Officer of Remain. We help Black men interrupt patterns, disrupt behaviors, break the vicious cycles of missed potential so that they master their lives, leadership, and legacy. And we do the same thing for institutions that impact them. And so I'm excited to be on the call with two brilliant brothers, two brothers that I absolutely respect, and looking forward to sharing ideas.
All right, fellas, do we all agree tonight that we're going to be very transparent and bold?
Yeah.
Do we agree to not pull punches?
Yeah.
We do.
No other way.
Yeah.
No other way.
Yeah.
Even though it might step on a toe or two.
Yeah.
Or three.
Or three.
Yeah.
Maybe even especially if it steps on toes. Okay. Maybe even especially. So let me go ahead and I want everyone to please just give your opening thoughts as to when I asked you guys to join me here tonight, what were you thinking we would talk about? What was on your mind when I first lifted up this topic and wanted to have this discussion with you? Let's go with you first, Dr. Leroy.
No, when you had asked, about, possibly doing this, I thought it was my first thoughts were it's an important topic. It's something that needs to be discussed because of what has happened, like you said, just over this past week. Just what has happened in this small time frame, and my thing is not just about now, but how are we going to go over the next 3-4 months going into November and the significance of it. So, those were my initial thoughts about it.
Okay, and Brother Donald, please share yours.
Yeah. I thought it was a good time to have the conversation. There are varying thoughts, diversified thoughts about Vice President Kamala Harris, and I think some of the support is warranted. I think some of the critique is warranted. I think some of both of them are based and founded in ignorance. Got to remember that back in when she was as VP in 2020, you have to remember that she was never given an opportunity to tell her story. She was simply the vice president who needed to stand there, look pretty, while President Biden took all of the questions. So all of the questions that Black men have in particular were never had an opportunity to be asked. And so we're leery about her, and we should be until we have the information that makes it necessary for us to feel confident about our vote. I think that the opportunity that many are taking to tell Black men who they should vote for is a mistake. I think we should really ask Black men What is your background? What interests you? What are your challenges? And allow them to come to their own conclusions. So that is the reason why I think the conversation tonight is hella important.
Amen. Let me just say, before President Joe Biden stepped down and Kamala Harris took the helm, I knew that I was going to vote against Donald Trump. That's what I was going to do. I was going to vote against him. But now that Kamala's in office, I'm going to vote for her, because Donald Trump is the guy who currently has 34 felonies in relation to fraud when it comes to his business dealings. He also has 12 more felonies, too, in Georgia, crimes he's committed. He's also the man who took classified documents out of the White House when he left the office. He's also the man who has a history of fraud, like his Trump University. He can no longer operate a charity anywhere in this country because of fraud. He has set up situations so that it benefits him and his cronies. And all he has is insults. He's 78 years old, and has a history of insulting people, 7th grade style. He's also from New York City, and the people in New York City that know him best hate him because of his record of not paying people. So I don't like him or trust him, and I believe because he's demonstrated that he's an abject racist, abject fraud, and very petty and mean, why I'm so perplexed, and I'm hoping you guys will help me. I know Kamala Harris was a practicing prosecutor for more than 20 years. I know that she was elected to the Attorney of State in California. I know she also she's done a few things that I know of. So a history of prosecution, history of being elected into office a few times already. So she's run and been elected before. But you're right, Donald. A lot of people didn't know her story. So the more we learn about her story in the next 99 days, the better. So now, since I said my feelings about Trump, I'm perplexed that even though this is common knowledge, I think there's more than 100 things that if any other person had done it, they would have been eliminated from contention. But for some reason, he can do it and it's okay. The fact that we've all seen his wife naked, the fact that he doesn't lose any votes. He could say anything. He could commit any crime. He could be a felon, but he's not losing any votes. Why is that? Why is that, fellas?
Leroy?
Why do they want to support him?
No, I'll let you go. I'll let you go first, Donald, this time.
Well, I think there are a couple of things to realize, right? That there are individuals, particularly Black men and Black people, who are conservative as it relates to values, right? That they are not necessarily voting for Donald Trump. They are voting for the party platform. They're voting for the things that they hold dear as it relates to values. In the same way that there are people who are voting for Kamala Harris that don't necessarily believe in that are voting for the platform that don't necessarily like Kamala Harris. And that is the right of every single individual. I am one of those people, Brian, that believes that you have to vote in line, except in this instance. So I'm gonna tell you where my departure.
In this instance, okay.
Except in this instance,
okay.
Because character is important to me. Character is important to me, and when I see a man. To your point, the number one reason why I cannot vote for Donald Trump is not based on racism. It's not based on that. Racism is baked into both parties. So it's not based on that. It's not based on some of the social issues. It's not based on that. The reason why I cannot vote for Donald Trump and many of those that have shown themselves a part of the Republican Party is because they have nothing but insults. That's it. There's no data, there's no research, there's nothing like that. They want to be able to obtain the Oval Office through nothing more than let me cast aspersions, let me cast insults, let me say this, Let me say that. Let me call her DEI hire. And I cannot tell you any time more prevalent than this one, Brian, where people on the right have espoused so much misinformation that has been bought and swallowed hook, line, and sinker without any research and without any backing.
Or even if they know it's an abject lie, they still take it.
Many of them don't know it's an abject lie. Many of them really buy the hype of media. One of the challenges with social media, one of the challenges with platforms like we are on today, is it does not require you to have facts or anything like that. Anybody can just kind of grab a microphone and say whatever they want to say, right? Fortunately, us three have at least done some due diligence and have some research behind the reasons for which we're making the decisions that we're making. So I will stop there. There are some other reasons, but I will stop there.
We're gonna come back to you
and let Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. go after me.
Why is that, Dr. Leroy McKenzie? Why?
Well, I think there are a couple of things, and I guess I gotta be careful how I word these things.
Or do you have to be careful?
Well, we don't want to get your live, so you have to be careful of what you say. But
okay.
But the thing of it is what Donald said. I think the truth of the matter is media plays a huge part in how people are influenced. Unfortunately, this is what Brother Malcolm X said years ago when he said that the media is the most powerful tool that that folks have, and it's showing in this very instance, and the person that's at the top of the ticket for the Republican Party knows that, understands how media controls things, and he's used it with his business career. He's used it to be able to get to the level that he has gotten to. So he understands that. So that to me is one of the major reasons why. Because of, as Don said, I say that's got to be almost, I would say the number one is because of media and people's lack of effort to research information and to do their own research. I was watching TikTok earlier today, and it was a lady on there, and she was Caucasian, and she said it, and she was talking about this very thing about why 2016 they voted the way that she voted and her major reason was because of what the media was telling her, them, and everyone else, and them buying into what the media was telling them, as opposed to really thinking for themselves and not allowing little excerpts or newspapers and all of these little blogs that were coming out to dictate who they were going to vote for.
Yeah.
So I think that's to me, that's the major reason. I think Donald was right on it. That's a big part of why, and the situation that we're in.
I want to welcome Mr. Tyrone Ricks and the Tent of Life. They're tuned in. If there's anyone watching here that you want to lift up a question here, if it's decent and we can read it, we will, and we'll address it as well. So this is an open space. But again, I pray for transparency, and the guys all agreed. I still want to go back to, because I suspect, and I have every reason to suspect this, that between now and the election, it's going to get ugly and it's going to get muddy. And all you'll do is just double down on insults and lies. They don't have anything other than this scary proposal, Project 2025. And Much been researching that as well. We'll get to that in just a moment. And because I think it's worthy that we talk about some of those things too. There's so much of it that's just really, really ugly, just so ugly. And they're trying to get us back to a draconian period where poor people don't have any rights, So we'll talk about that. But I'm still perplexed, fellas, as to why character no longer seems to matter. Character doesn't matter. It didn't matter in 2016. We knew what was going to happen. The first week of his presidency was the most chaotic of my adult life with the crazy travel ban. Okay, that was nuts. But so much is nuts. Even the December 6th imploring people to go and stop them certifying the president, certifying the election. So he had those people marshaled, said he would go with them, and then he went home. But something like that, and refusing to leave and didn't want to do this and blah, 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 and taking documents. That to me is character issues, but it doesn't seem to matter here. Why? I was in an interview a little while ago with someone that I really respected. I respected this man. He's a white man. He wrote a book that I thought was significant in my life, and I respected him, and I was grateful that he gave me the opportunity to be interviewed. He had done his research on me. He had saw me do things. He knew how I treated my wife. He was able to quote my books and all that stuff. He was very, very prepared for the interview. But he started talking about, and early on in the interview, fellas, he was talking about how he is a man who cares about how people are treated, fairness of life, character matters to him. He said that early in the interview, and I heard him, and we carried on with the interview. The interview was an hour long, and near the end of the interview, he says, well, I guess you can tell by now that I'm a Trump guy. And I said to him, no, I couldn't have told that until this point. You told me I didn't think that you were, because you were celebrating character. So I didn't think you were a Trump guy. And he let that go. And he says, well, look, I want to invite you to my convention in Vegas. You and your wife, all expenses paid. He said this live. And I said, thank you very much. That sounds amazing. But when the interview ended, I knew I was not going to go. I'm not going to go to a convention in Vegas with this guy who I know is a Trump supporter. I'm not going to be the token black in the room and end up accidentally at a Trump rally. No way am I going to go to his event. Okay. But he said character matters, but he also said he backs Trump. That seems incongruent to me. Why? Why do they believe his character and not his record? I really want to know.
Here's the thing, and we learned this when we were young. What did our parents teach us? That actions speak louder than words. What we do should matter more than what we say. I can tell you, Brian, that I'm going to give you $1 million tomorrow, make you a millionaire tomorrow. But if I don't do that, or even knowing that I can't do that, it would speak to you. Would then begin to then question who I was and what I'm saying. If time after time I don't give you the results that I'm telling you that I'm going to give you, it would begin to matter to you. And in this instance, I'm gonna have to call a spade a spade. In this instance, and you said it too, if this were anyone else that were doing the things that this man has done, we all know that it would be a totally different story. He wouldn't have even been able to be a presidential candidate back in 2016. But there are powers that be that can make someone who they want to put on that platform, they can put them there, and they can, as we talked about, media make people feel as if this person is justified in being where he is. I've asked the question, and nobody has been able to give me the answer how he even passed the security clearance.
Well, he didn't. Okay, but they just made it not matter. Okay, he didn't pass it. But I thought the way I justified it was this is a rebound coming from 8 years President Barack Obama.
Correct.
8 years of a classy, intelligent black man, Harvard professor. They wanted the exact opposite, and you can't get more opposite than Barack than Trump. That's what I thought. Okay, what was you going to say, Donald?
Yeah, I don't know that that having the conversation around, and I want to echo what you said at the beginning of the conversation tonight, Brian, when you said that before Kamala became the presumptive nominee, you were going to vote against Trump.
Yes.
Now that Kamala is the presumptive nominee, you are going to vote. You finally found your way to be able to vote for Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
I think the question that we have to be able to entertain tonight is for those individuals that weren't going to vote for either. And I was one of those individuals, right? I was one of those individuals that was going to sit on the couch while everybody else did what they did. I couldn't find my way to vote for either. And let me just say this. I was on a call with Jeff Johnson, Roland Martin, and some others right before I got on here, right? Our call with you brothers. And Jeff Johnson was the only one that has been able to so far articulate my position. And that is this. I believe in Kamala Harris. I'm not excited about Kamala Harris. I believe in her. I believe in her enough to vote for her and to endorse her, as you guys know. I can't get excited about a candidate that has not had, and I've got the party platform even here, and I've got all of the things that they say that they've listed that they've done for Black people, 95% of which have nothing to do with Black men. It is incredibly difficult for me to be excited about a platform or a candidate that has not shown themselves overtly for Black men. And what I found out tonight on the call, there was another brother, his name is Terrence, who is doing these focus groups across the country. And he has found exactly what I have been saying to be true amongst the majority of Black men that he has talked to. And that is that there are a number of issues that Black men are concerned about. That and Jeff said this, Jeff, and I'll get back to Terrence. Jeff said that Black men are the least polled of all categories. Black men are the least polled. So when people say Black men are thinking this and Black men are doing this, Jeff's question is my question. What Black men you talking to? They're not even polling us, right? So Terrence then comes with all of the data and he says this: Black men aren't interested in social issues by and large. So we're attempting to develop candidates that will appreciate Black men, thinking that Black men think like Black women, and we don't, right? Wow. There are things that people are pushing up against us that don't matter to us, and it's not going to move the needle. So at some point, someone has to ask questions of Black men about what is important to you. What do you like to see happen in the party, more than, hey man, I need you to vote for Kamala Harris, because if you don't, a non-vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for Trump. We need more than that.
I know not to step to you with that, because you that ain't gonna work with Donald Boy.
That don't work with me. That doesn't work with me. I work with guys every single day. And B, I will tell you that guys have their own set of issues that no one is paying attention to. The one issue, and it's in the data, I can send the data. I got receipts. The one issue that I don't even agree with, that Black men have found themselves supporting, is the issue of reproductive rights, right? So Black men have said, yeah, we want to protect our sisters. We want to protect their reproductive rights. Got it, right? But all the other stuff,
all that matters to Black men,
for Black men are non-existent, because no one's asking us. We're making presumptions about Black men without the data. We began tonight talking about the importance of data, not anecdotal data, not the way that I feel as an individual Black man. I'm talking about the focus groups that are being held across the country that are proving exactly what Terrence said, what Jeff said, what I've been saying, and that is no one is really paying attention to what the needs and desires of adult Black men are. And I want to make sure I'm going to vote for it, and I'm going to push others to vote for, but I'm at the inverse of what you said, B, and that is I'm voting against Trump. Right. I'm voting against Trump more than I'm excited about voting for Kamala Harris. Does it mean that she can't switch up and begin to make sure that there are some things to talk about with regard to black men? Doesn't mean that at all. I think she can. I think there's an opportunity to do that. But to say that that has been happening would be fallacious of us.
You're right. You're right. So you're right. I want to say some stuff, but go ahead, Dr. Leroy.
Well, I'm gonna ask this. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna push back. And Donald and I go at this all the time about this. When we say that you have the list of the things that have been addressed, and that black men that you talk to have a list, I want to hear, and both of you, I want to hear since Vice President Kamala Harris doesn't excite you, and I think we have the misnomer of having to be excited about somebody versus looking at what legislatively we need to be looking at.
Amen.
Agreed.
And
absolutely agree.
And so when you say that there are no issues that are being addressed for us as black men, I can give you at least 3 to 5 off the top of my head that I know impact.
Well, I want to tell you my
healthcare.
I want them to say too.
Healthcare is one, which is major because we are not healthy. Okay. Two is our jobs, which infrastructure is being addressed. 3, criminal justice reform, which is being addressed. Mm-hmm. And what were my other 2? There's and I can't think of it on the top of my head. And I don't have them here.
We'll come back to it because you both said some stuff. I'm chomping at the bit.
But those to me, and education. I'm sorry, education is one as well too. Education reform.
Well,
would be good for.
Donald, you've said some stuff, and I love what you both have said. Okay, part of it is my fault why they don't poll black men, because I caught myself this past week for the second time being asked to be on a poll, and I just chose not to. I didn't feel like being bothered. They wanted to poll me. They called me up and wanted to ask me some questions. I says, no, I didn't want to be bothered. And I think I'm an average black man. Don't want to be bothered with the polling question. I'm going to do what I'm going to do anyway. But this last time I caught myself, Brian, why didn't I just give my opinion here? But the things that I want to hear them say, Donald, is I want police reform. I want someone to talk about police reform. I don't think the average American citizen should have an assault weapon. Okay, I'm not anti-guns. I'm anti-clips would hold 100 rounds that can kill 100 people in a minute. I don't think those things are important to me. I want police reform. I don't think police should be able to just indiscriminately kill without repercussion, or even abuse civil rights without repercussions. So that's important to me. Criminal reform, justice reform. Why does this person get a different sentence than that person? Those things matter to me. Banking reform matters to me. Education reform matters to me. I hate our educational system in this country right now. I think it can be so much smarter and better, but no reform of it. So those are the things that I want Kamala to talk about. To your point, I wish she would say the words police reform. I don't know if it'll be popular for her or not. I want to talk about this too. And
let me say this though, B, before you move forward, right? So let's talk about education for a moment, right? Okay. And I again always announce this: I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I am an independent. I am radically independent. And when we talk about all one has to do is to look at Waiting for Superman. All one has to do is look at that documentary about Geoffrey Canada to recognize that what people have called for as it relates to educational reform is never going to happen. It's never going to happen. We got young Black kids that can't read, right? So when we talk about an educational platform that is producing illiterate children, I have an issue with that. I would much rather someone give me a voucher or whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you call it, and let Brian and Leroy and Donald choose the school of his choice that is going to better educate our children and allow that to happen more than I'm willing to invest tax dollars in a system that continues to fail our Black kids. I have an issue with that, right? So for me, I'm attempting to kind of do what Solomon did, split the baby. I'm not full-throatedly for anything that is happening on the Democratic side. I agree with police reform, right? I agree with the fact that as it relates to making sure that police don't get an opportunity to kill us with impunity, right? I absolutely agree with those things. What I am saying is that those things, to your point, Brian, and the things that Dr. Leroy so eloquently stated are not things that are being, if they don't fit in the overall objective, if they don't fit in the overall agenda of the Democratic Party, those things aren't necessarily specific for us, because if they were, people would understand that Black young men learn differently. That's research. We learn differently, right? Yet our classrooms continue to tell us that Raheem can't learn because you got him in a classroom teaching him to sit down for 2 hours at a time. That's not the way that Black kids, right, Black young men learn.
That's only two of the intelligence they bother, but there's nine intelligences.
Right. So if we're really interested in
verbal and math, that's it.
So sometimes when we have these conversations and we talk about education, I'm talking specifically about Black males and the unique dichotomy that exists between Black males and everybody else, right? So I think I agree with a lot of what Leroy said. I would just ask us to drill down a little more and to be a little more specific as it relates not just to Black people, which, by the way, and I'll send the document to y'all, which, by the way, Black men are saying racism doesn't move me. It doesn't move me because racism is baked into both parties. That is what they're saying, right? So we got to find a language that actually talks to them and moves them in the direction that we need them to move. But it requires that we ask them questions and stop telling them what to do, right? It requires that we allow them the intelligence of asking questions without demonizing them for the choices that they are making, if the choices that they are making are not the choices that we want them to make.
It's now 8:33. We've been talking for 33 minutes. Hello, welcome to the circle, Mr. Dwight Robinson says the Evening Kings. Yes, specificity is needed. Dr. Leroy, please.
Yeah, here's my thing, and I think both of you agree with this. And Donald, I love what you said about asking. But here's the thing that I've seen, and maybe you can say something different. It's to get Black men to voice their opinion, to put their voice and make their voice heard, seems like pulling teeth. When you've asked them to participate and do things like Brian said, hey, okay, all right, I'm gonna move on. And as a result of that, to me, your voice will never be heard if you're not standing up and make it be. We talk about it all the time, being seen, being heard, and be acknowledged. If you don't make it so that you can be heard, they're not going to come ask us. Okay, and what? Do we now have to say, you know what? No, I'm going to make you hear me. Every other community, ethnic group does that, right or wrong, don't they?
Yes,
they say
communities that won't let you not take their issues.
Right, they won't let you not acknowledge them.
When Jews get persecuted, you're going to talk about Jewish issues. When the Asians get persecuted, you're going to talk about Asian issues.
Yes.
So we can't just expect them to come to us and ask us, well, what is it that your needs are? No, and we said this before about the agenda. I don't expect them to come to me with my agenda. I'm expected to go to them with my agenda. Say, here it is. This is what we are asking you for. What is your opinion on it? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to address it? Everybody else does that.
Yeah.
And they're not sitting back expecting to be asked about it or to be polled on it. So my thing is, no, I don't want you polling. No, I'm gonna make sure that you. And here's the thing about them coming to ask us. They, of course, we know they don't want to hear our voice. But here's the thing: when you come together, and we've seen this over the last week, when you galvanize and you come together to make your voice heard, it becomes such a powerful thing. But we as brothers can't seem to do that. Don't seem to do that. There are pockets of us that do, of course, but there isn't this overarching galvanization of us and about an agenda and about what our core issues are. I promise, I guarantee you, if you were to poll, let's say 100 black men right now on what our issues are, what do you think? What would you would get a number of answers as to what should be a priority.
You would get some consensus on some stuff too.
Absolutely, without question. And these polls that have been happening are polls that have been taking place in the battleground states. And here is the reason why that's important, right? Those purple states, those areas where it can swing one way or the other.
And has.
Has, right?
Yep.
The reason why you talked about what you and I talk about all the time, and what B talks about too in his men's group all the time, and that is seen, heard, right? Being seen, being heard, being represented, acknowledged. So here's the deal. If you are going to ask me to vote for you, messaging is everything. Brian is sales coach extraordinaire. Messaging is everything. There is a way to be able to couch what we need black men to do in the message that they can tolerate and that they can swallow. But if you don't ask them, if you don't give us the dignity of a question, and if you're saying this is what you're going to do, we rebellious. My man, you're not going to walk in my house and tell me what I'm going to do.
I got to back Dr. Leroy for a second here. Brother Dwight says, let address and now perfect it later. One of the core tenets of my men's group is to take as much personal responsibility for your life as possible.
Absolutely.
As much as possible.
Absolutely.
Within yourself.
Absolutely.
As much blame and accept responsibility for how your life is turning out as much as possible.
Absolutely.
You can't do it 100%, but 99% are pretty damn close.
Absolutely.
So when Dr. Leroy just said, we don't even need to expect them to come to us and ask because they're not gonna. Okay, we need to bring it to them. They're not gonna come. I want my issues articulated. I do agree with you, sir, that messaging matters, and I've been so excited about how Kamala has framed it so far. I've been very excited about it. It's 9:39. We're going to hard stop at 60 minutes because we can go for 4 hours, but we're not. Okay, we're not going to solve all the problems tonight. I want us to shift a little bit our conversation because we don't want to get people dressed up with no place to go. So at least spend a few minutes talk about what some solutions. I would like for us to do that too. Okay, something we can do. Before Biden dropped out, I assumed Trump would win again. And I had already decided that I just was not going to take part in any politics at all. I was going to ignore what he did. That was what I was going to do. Because I know it's going to be chaotic and ugly and fear-based and petty and mean. So I was just going to ignore it. But now we're framing how this is the prosecutor versus the criminal. This is the for the future and women having rights versus taking away. We need to mention just a minute or two, just some of the tenets of the stated Project 2025, just a minute or two. We need to bring up some of that stuff. One of the things that's in that list, that manifesto, if you will, is every child that is educated federally, public schools, they all have to complete the military exam for entrance, the military, what do you call it? Military jobs application, basically, so they can assign jobs to them. They all have to do it. If you're getting federal funds, you got to apply for the military too. That's in there as well. Also, they're going to defund Planned Parenthood, and they intend to make a nationwide ban on abortions. So defunding Planned Parenthood, that means less people have access to contraception, and eliminating the Department of Education, and eliminating a couple other parts, but just those three right there. Why would they do this? Because, and deregulation, get rid of a whole bunch of deregulations for the environment. That's in Project 2025. But what that will do, it will make profits for a few people. For a few people, will get more profits, is what it will do. And it will just take us back on some of these hard-fought rights that we've gained since 1965. Okay, some of those things will be gone or lessened. The Affordable Care Act, they want to eliminate that. That right there got a lot of us health coverage that have never had it before. So with these thoughts in my mind, I'm still perplexed about why they want to adopt that. And I know why, because greed matters to me. That's what I think they're doing it for. So it's 8:42. We got 18 more minutes left. I want you guys to say that thing that you've been biting, that you've held back and hadn't said yet. Get it out. Get it off. Come on.
Yeah, I will say this. I don't have as much a problem with Project 2025 as many people do.
Oh,
you talked a moment ago about personal responsibility. That is a tenet of Remain. It is a tenet of character,
yes.
Right? And so when we talk about, again, when we talk about public education, getting rid of public education, the right has always talked a lot about smaller government. So whether that's the Department of Education, whether that's the FBI, whether that's the IRS, they've always talked about this. This isn't anything new, right? Okay. I would much rather, again, because when I don't have any children school age. Leroy is the only one with babies right now, right? So I will tell you.
I'm so grateful I don't.
Yeah, I don't have babies. You don't have babies. Leroy,
I'm grateful I don't.
Right, and the reason why. So when we talk about education, give me the ability to send my child where I want to send my child, and also recognizing that there are some things, to your point a moment ago, B, that are not the educational system's responsibility to teach my child. It's not their job to do so. It's the Morton household's job to do that. It's the Mackenzie Jr.'s household to do that. It's the McNeil household to do that. When we talk about education, teach my child the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. Don't teach them a social agenda.
You're right.
Don't teach them a social agenda. And if you are going to graduate from school into public education, you have to be taught all of it. You have no control over it. So that is one of the issues that I don't have a problem with Project 2025. Let me lastly say this, and then I'll turn it over to Leroy. I'll be quiet for the rest of the night. I
doubt it, but go ahead.
Yeah, I doubt it, right? I have an issue with reproductive freedom and rights and Planned Parenthood. I have an issue with that because it is a one-sided conversation, Brian. No one is talking about the countless men who want their children but have no say-so in the whole family dynamic. We have no say-so. If mom wants to abort,
right there,
right? If mom wants to abort, dad's got no say-so at all. So for me, there are the issues of Project 25, even as an individual kind of thing, are nuanced. And I can't swallow hook, line, and sinker all of it to suggest that it's just a battle or a war for reproductive freedom. And we're not.
Hold on, I gotta stop because you triggered Dr. Leroy a moment ago. Come on, Dr. Leroy.
Well, here's my question. I want either one of you to answer this question. Name me a law, bill, or anything that that is that tells a man what he can and cannot do with his reproductive system.
Okay, so let me say it this way, because I've heard that argument over and over again. Let me say this to you. In as it relates to, I have this formula, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., that I use to determine this very issue. And the question for me is always, who's most vulnerable? Who's most vulnerable, right? So when we talk about having children and abortion, the most vulnerable in that process is not mom, it's the unborn child. The unborn child has no argument in the process. Well, I listened to sisters on, I forget what I was watching, CNN, MSNBC. I listened to women say that abortion should be available for any woman who just got pregnant. Not talking about rape. We're not talking about any stuff like that, right? Mom's health is in question. Not talking about that. Just as a means of birth control.
All right, let me jump in because I heard that.
Yes.
I facilitated a college debate on abortion.
Yes.
And both sides were really competent.
Yes.
Okay? I was the moderator. The pro-abortion side was they have 4 very competent debaters. Yes. And the totally against, they have 4 very competent debaters.
Yes.
But we did have a winner.
Yes.
And the clear winner was the pro-abortion. I'm gonna tell you why they won.
Okay.
Okay. They had an argument that the anti-abortionists couldn't defeat. Okay. And what their central argument that they couldn't battle was, what does it cost to carry a baby to term, okay, if she doesn't want it? And I can't separate rape and incest from I don't like the idea of using it as birth control, but it costs something for the woman. It costs her something in her body, and to force her to carry to term a baby that she doesn't want, what does that do to her psyche? Why is that fair to her? Okay, the baby's not yet here. The baby doesn't have any rights, but they won the debate on that argument. Prenatal care, all that stuff. And then when the baby is born, the family has the debt to pay the doctors and the hospitals too. So they don't have an argument for that point. Okay. Women should have a right to choose on one hand, but it's killing a baby on another. That's true. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Leroy.
But can I add this as well? And let's say, okay, you tell women that they do have to carry it. They do have to have the baby.
Force them to.
Force them to have the child. You said the father wants to take care of it, right? The father wants her to have it.
Yes.
Is he going to be there to take care of that child?
Yes.
As Brian just said, hey, the cost of it, I want to be able to do that. And I think with that, and none of us, I know none of us are saying that it should be used as a contraceptive. No way, no how. Nobody's saying that. And in the worst case scenarios, like we said, none of us believe that.
Right.
But there's an area where, like I said, we cannot, if there's nothing that tells us as men what we can and can't do with our body, how can we justify telling a woman what she can and can't do with her body? Right. Is my main thing. And then even after that, if she is someone who says, you know what, I didn't want it, I don't want it, then whose responsibility is it to take care of it?
So here's the
and forced her to carry it.
But here's the argument for that. Here's the answer for that, gentlemen. As a part of We Dream 2025, the campaign for Black males and boys, one of the pillars of that argument is that society has this misunderstanding that men cannot be primary custodial parents. There is almost this idea that mom is best suited for children's development, and the data doesn't say that.
That's an antiquated thought. I could have raised any of my children myself.
Yes,
no doubt.
Yes. So a part of what my challenge is that, okay, so you again, my argument is always going to be for the brothers. It's hopefully never at expense of the sisters, but my argument's always going to be for the brothers. I have a challenge when we are our talking points and our arguments are always trying to find ways to protect sis, but it's at the expense of men. When men want to understand, I want my child. I want my child.
It's so ugly.
It's right. It's
Especially
so I
if he
want my
doesn't stay
child.
with
And
her.
then
Child support
if
court
she
is so
has
one-sided.
if she has the child and he doesn't want the child, let's say she has the child, he doesn't want the child, and she goes ahead and has the child, then we say, okay, but you got to take care of this child. You got to
Right.
pay child support.
He has no say.
He has no say, and my
And the
issue
laws will
is
kick his
we are
ass if he
voiceless.
tries to have a say.
Right.
That's correct.
That's my only issue.
I have a problem with that too. I've been in that system.
Yeah.
It's not fair. It's ugly.
Yeah.
It's ugly,
Right.
ugly.
Yes. Yeah.
We got 9 minutes left, fellas.
Yeah.
Let's can we shift a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's easy for me to get riled up about these issues. And I imagine other Black men can get riled up too. I applaud this time. Part of me is a little bit afraid too, because my work, my profession, I'm dealing with people that are not Black very often.
Yes. Yes.
And part of me is concerned when they see how I feel about Black this, Black that. I'm wondering if I'm certain I've lost business behind this. Certain I have. Like, I don't want to keep losing business behind this, but I also want to be true to who I am as a person. Absolutely. And I argue and I fuss and I fight. I have a right to how I feel. You know, you're going to hear me, like Dr. Leroy was saying. So that's one thought. And I think other Black men hold back because of the same thing too. They don't want to compromise our money. Okay. But what can we do from this moment? We'll probably have to have more meetings, but what can we do? Advise a 25-year-old Black man or a 30-year-old Black man. Give him something.
Leroy. Give him something, Leroy. What do
here's
you
what
want children?
Here's what I say to the next generation. And it's our responsibility for those that are part of the now generation, what I call the now generation, to make it better for them. And as we've been talking about a little bit here tonight, is being able to address the issue. What we see are the issues that we have, one as Black men, but then two as a community. What those issues are, and I don't know if Brian, if you allow us, but I don't know if you have them right there with you, Donald. Those at least 10 issues that we as Black men want to have addressed, and we talk to those younger Black men about those issues, and we find out what their thoughts are, if they have thoughts, or to teach them about, hey, these are some things that we know that need to be addressed. Your generation is the young generation that we believe is the way in which they can be addressed. You'll address it, we'll address it, and between the two generations, we move the needle, as Donald always says. We're about moving the needle.
Madam
but
says the ability isn't questionable. The involvement is.
Correct.
And I think
absolutely.
Right. I think
absolutely.
The ability isn't what does that mean?
That means it's not that we can't do it. Okay.
Correct.
Are we going to be involved?
The question is, right, are we going to do it?
That's how
you can have the greatest. You can have the greatest plan in the world, but if you don't implement it, it means nothing.
Or if you don't get involved.
100%.
I want to be involved. I wish there was a way, that I could earn. Madam Sela says I was correct. I can only work with Ussens, okay? But that's not my reality. And actually, I have great friends that are not Black people. And I have great clients that I want to keep, that I've come to know and love, that are not Black people. I love them, want to keep them. And I like working with them. I want to be more inclusive. I want to be, okay? But I need help with it. I do.
Yeah, let me say this, man. And this isn't my quote. This is a white guy's quote. And I think it was brilliantly spoken. He was talking to my spiritual father. They were driving down the street and they were talking about Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
Right. Now, I am not necessarily a supporter of Black Lives Matter because Black Lives Matter really began on the back of Black men being killed by police. But that's where the agenda stops, quite frankly, right? But here's what
you okay.
Say it again.
to you, that's where the agenda stops.
Well,
I'm
I mean, if all one
I
has
just wish
to,
they would have labeled it a little bit different.
all one has to do is go on. And what I'm saying is, if you go on and you look at the agenda of Black Lives Matter, you will see that the agenda has nothing to do with black men. Has nothing to do with black men. It's Black lives, but it's a different kind of black life.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is
that
go
we
look
even
at
have
the
to
agenda.
say it. Okay, but we felt like we had to say it.
Yeah.
I
Well,
want to say Black Lives Matter too.
So yeah, Black Lives Matter as well, right? Black Lives Matter too. Here is what I would say. When my dad and the gentleman, the other pastor, was kind of riding down the street, Dr. McKenzie, he's Jr. I always got to catch myself, right? The guy said the reason why Black Lives Matter is so important, the language is so important, as it relates to separating it and juxtaposing it from White Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, all the things that come ancillary to that.
Which is stupid to me.
Right. Is because Black Lives Matter is the house that's on fire. So you can go down a row of homes and you can spray water on all the homes and miss the one that's on fire.
Right.
The one that's on fire is black houses.
That's why I think it matters.
That's why it matters. But let's go a bit deeper. If you look at now, what black lives are most on fire?
It's an interesting question.
Black men.
We're gonna have to put a bow on this. Dr. Leroy, what you got?
No, I think we are, but also have to understand that we, as both of you have already said, it begins with us understanding that we're on fire.
Yeah,
we've got until we're the ones that say, "Whoa, we're on fire." We've got to do collectively something together to begin to address the issues that we have. Then we can go to those other obstacles that are hindering us from moving forward and say, look, we're here putting the water on the house, and we're doing our part. We need you to now do your part as far as addressing that. And that means like I said, the generation that talking to that next generation. And real quick, Brian, in the song from Selma that John Legend wrote, there's a line in there that Common says, you need the wisdom of the elders and the energy of the youth. They go together.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what needs to propel us to moving the needle. For sure. And not neglecting one for the other or the other. And we're not talking to as black men, we're not talking to each other.
For sure.
We're not talking to each other, and this ain't something that just started. That's been years since we were young adults.
Yeah,
it was the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm excited that we had this conversation. I found this conversation meaningful and significant. These videos like this, these streams, they have a long life, fellas. I'm grateful for everyone who tuned in. But once this is going on YouTube, my YouTube, as well as my Facebook page and my Twitter is where it's going tonight. You guys can share it wherever you like. But right now it's live streamed on my YouTube and all that kind of stuff. These things have a long life. And we're going to hear some comments about it. I'm praying that someone got an answer to something. I don't think the conversation is finished. I'm grateful to both of you being available tonight and willing to share this with me. You know, I wanted to say some stuff. I had some stuff on my chest. And I knew you guys would be helpful in this. So I feel better having had this conversation with you.
Yeah.
Everyone that tuned in, whether you chose to say something or not, thank you for being here. You guys want to say goodbye any particular way?
Be gone.
Have a beautiful night. Fellas, don't hang up, fellas. You guys stay in the room. I'm going to end this stream.
Thank you, Brian, for this. And like you said, this